Welcome to making my partner a historically inspired and historically realistic suit of female fantasy armour. For this video we're going to be working on the breastplate. It is inspired by the Churburd 13, so it is a heavily modified Churburd 13 style breastplate with closing backplate. The original Churburd 13 does not have a backplate, but my partner requested one, so I figured I'd give it a two-piece backplate, which will make the whole thing flexible, and kind of makes sense to me that if you were to add a backplate to a Churburd 13, that you would have it in two pieces like this. One tip I do recommend people use for armour is whenever you try to work on a template, try it out in cardboard first. I like to use cardboard boxes with paper fasteners, and just to get a bit of fit on whoever the armour is intended for. And yes, I know it's going to change quite a bit as you start dishing it and adding curvature to it, but for basic proportions it's good to at least get a cardboard template and try it on the person the armour is intended for. One thing that's a bit different about this to the normal Churburd is you'll notice that the all of the plates widen. They widen out towards the midsection, or 2/3 up the actual cuirass, to enhance the overall hourglass of the harness, and to essentially, I think this makes it look a lot more like a corset while still looking like a Churburd 13. How you want this to be fitted is you want it to be just below the ribs on the bottom at the natural waist. You don't want it to have it at the a modern pants waist. You don't want it down here. You want it just below the ribs. Because that's your natural waist, and that's where your upper body actually articulates. And you want it to stop somewhere below the collarbone, so that if you lean forwards, you're not going to jam yourself in the throat. Alright, so now I've got all of my plates marked so I know which side's back. What I've got to do is I've got to start dishing them. For this I've got my own little dishing die that I made out of a piece of 5mm thick that I hammered into a concavity. You don't need this, you can get away with just using a stump. Alright, so I've gone and I've curved out all of the plates. I tried to get them not to be too overly curved. Don't want to overdo it with the curvature, because I want this to be shapely, but not necessarily quite as a beach ball. Kept having to undish stuff and try to get it just right, but I've got them all as dished as I want. Trying to give it a bit of a lighter curve at the lower half of the breastplate, and having a bit more curve at the top, just to give a more feminine physique. It's trying to get most of the curvature in the top half of the plates and slightly shallower curve at the bottom. So yes, they are all quite curved. Definitely not flat pieces, but just trying to have it come out and start to curve a little bit higher up, to give more of a shapely upper body, as opposed to see with a lot of like a Globos breastplate, kind of just comes out and kind of makes it look like, it's not really the shape we were going for aesthetically. Because this is a fantasy build, which I'm glad I went with fantasy, because I've been looking at Churburds, and I never realised that Churburd breastplates are all riveted to a continuous liner or a backing material. I'm not sure if it's leather or if it's a textile, but yeah, most reproductions of Churburds have all the plates attached to each other with leather hinges. I just had a look at the original. It's not made that way. It's like, ooh. But yeah, this is not a historically accurate Churburd. Clearly, I mean, that's clearly not the shape of the centerpiece of a Churburd. But yeah, I'm taking artistic license. And, well, I don't have a large piece of leather that I can use for this, and I can't get one at short notice. I do have some leather, but it's way too thin. I do, however, have a ton of leather straps from belts and stuff that I can use to create a, the leather hinges. So I'm going to get busy with textures, or permanent markers on the inside, and working out where the overlap's going to be, and yeah, work out where to put all the holes to make a leather hinge. I'll bring you back when I've got an example. I've shaped all the pieces and I've stuck them together using cardboard in place of leather for the leather hinges. Held in with paper fasteners. It's just quick and easy. Downside is they pop out and break quite easily, but just for fitting it saves on leather. I've had to make some modifications to the curvature of these two pieces, and I'm going to further modify them because these points are digging in, so I'm going to take maybe an inch off of them, changing the curvature a bit. Right. So the way in which they're overlapping is the overlap side, I mark out 1/2 inch and then have the whole a 1/4 inch off of the 1/2 inch marking. I've decided to use 3 evenly spaced holes for that and 5 evenly spaced holes for the middle 3. And so, yeah, it creates a bit of an overlap. Next I'm going to be getting all of the scale off of this and then heat tinting it. Mostly purple, but there'll be bits of doing it a little unevenly, so there'll be bits of blue and coppery gold coming out of it. But I spent ages polishing up pieces with flat discs and Scotch Brite wheels, and then eventually I was just got fed up with it. So I figured I'd just use magic instead. Specifically, alchemy. I realized, why am I spending so much time taking all of this off physically when I can just leave it in vinegar overnight? So yeah, I just left my steel in vinegar. Cleaning vinegar is a little bit better because it's a bit stronger, but yeah, I just left it in vinegar overnight, and now I've got, and now I can just wipe that hard scale off. Then to do a heat tinted, you just got to get really polished back to bare steel. I guess you probably could do it with just a Scotch Brite or maybe some sandpaper, but I'm not a peasant, and as a wise man once said, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power. And I do have the power. So I'm going to clamp this down using some C-clamps, and I'm going to polish it up using a Scotch Brite polishing wheel. Now, this is dangerous. These things can kill you. I almost got killed by a sanding disc once. Don't want to get too graphic, but that will, yeah. I had long hair at the time. I was working on a Damascus Sanmai knife. I was too excited, polishing it up. My hair fell down, got caught into it. Bang. These are grinders are very dangerous tools. So if you don't feel comfortable using them, you might just want to stick to using a bit of elbow grease and, Scotch-Brite pads or sandpaper, but soaking off the hard outer scale would speed things up greatly. But if you are going to use a grinder or something like this with a Scotch-Brite polishing disc, be very careful and remember all of your PPE, eye protection and definitely respiratory protection, because when you're polishing or grinding, you flick up a lot of really fine metal dust and you can breathe that in and it can be really bad for yourself. So yeah, that's why I use a proper respirator. Because no one wants lungs full of metal filings. It's just not good. Now I've got this all polished up, which is so much faster with power tools. Now that that's all shiny, I don't want to touch it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pair of tongs and hold this over the stove top and just try and heat it evenly. I've got a gas stove inside. You could do this over an open flame, but I find that if you're burning charcoal, it will give it can give the steel a bit of a coating of like soot, and that kind of like darkens up the finish a bit. It's not quite as bright, so I'm going to be using a gas flame. Now as you heat a piece of polished steel, you will notice a colour change as it starts to go kind of straw or a dark copper colour. Then it'll eventually turn purple and finally blue and then start to lighten up again. This is how we heat treat by eye in blacksmithing. So I've done this on plenty of blades, but as you heat it to a certain temperature, it'll start developing a certain colour. So we can optically judge the heat of the steel as we're reheating it in a polished state, which allows us to temper by eye. Because with the types of steel we use in blacksmithing, their tempering colours are right in that range where you can judge the steels by the surface discoloration or the tint it goes as you're heating it. So gonna be not entirely even on this because I want to have a little bit of a shimmer to it, so that there'll be little bits of copper shining through maybe, or little bits of blue, so it's not going to be completely even. Once you've heated this up to the right temperature and taken it off the heat, it's still crazy hot. I remember once I was heat treating a sword, back when I was still new to blacksmithing, and I heated up the blade till it went to I can't remember if that sword was meant to be blue or straw coloured, but yeah, I heated it up, it got to the right temperature, I quenched it in oil, and then I went to wipe the oil off and burnt myself horribly. And yeah, I spent most of that day in horrible, horrible pain because I pretty much just burnt off my fingertips. So yeah, after you've heated these up, treat them as if they are burning hot for a very long time, because these can hold temperature for longer than you might think. Alright, so here we are with the intentionally uneven heat tinting so that it has a bit more of a shimmery, multicolored look to it. It's a little bit copperier in the middle
It's fluorescent blue in some parts, in other parts it's more of a purple, but yeah. Once this cools down, I'm going to give it a coating of a beeswax floor polish, just to add just to get a coating of wax and oil onto it to preserve it, so protect it against corrosion. That will darken it up a bit, but the floor polish I've got, if you wipe it off with a bit of cooking oil, it comes right off, and then you've got your piece covered in shimmering cooking oil, and that actually enhances the brightness and makes it even shinier. So the idea is that when this suit of armour is in storage, it'll be coated in wax, but when it's being taken out and shown off, it'll be the wax will be taken off and it'll be oiled up for preservation, and it'll be super shiny. But yeah, you do need to protect this kind of finish from corrosion, and of course the inside of it will just be beeswaxed. Alright, so there are all of the plates, all heat tinted and ready to go. Now all I've got to do is rivet on the leather straps. For the rivets, all I use is a nail. So all we have to do is figure out how much extra it needs sticking out. I like about 2 mil sticking out. Luckily it's got these little lines go up the side of the nail, so I just need to know what height that is. Measure that off and cut off the end with one of these snips. I like to do it inside of a cardboard box because it tends to send the end of the nail flying. So if you want eye protection and PPE, but having it inside of a box when you do it, so you can like fire the nail off into the side of the box, helps with safety. And I'll start riveting. I'm just going to do the underlapping sides first on all the plates, and then start attaching the plates to each other. Okay, so I've attached leathers to the underlapping sides of the plates, and I've attached the back straps. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to attach these 3 front plates together and measure them on my partner for the amount of length I need for the shoulder straps. I'll have buckles attached to the back plates, and yeah, we just need to figure out how much extra strap I need going over the top. Once I've got those straps on, I'll then attach the 4 lames of either side together, and then attach them to the back plate, and then attach the sides to the center. Doing it in sections as opposed to just going from one end to the other to try and minimize the amount of flopping around, because I don't want to damage the finish. I'm even covering my anvil in cardboard, the areas that but leaving steel for where the rivet is going to be contacting with the anvil. Alright, so I'll bring his back when it's all put together. Yeah, it looks amazing. You can really see the difference in gloss from oiled up on the front to get some of the wax off. And the back has still got, yeah, that's what it looks like when it's in storage, because, yeah, I put a really heavy layer of wax on that for storage, so when we go to a medieval festival we'll have to, you know, maybe heat it with a hairdryer or something, melt the wax off, polish it up with oil, and then put it all on. I've made it too big. It's, yeah, I've probably made it a few sizes too big. I really love how the buckles look on the back of it. But, yeah, it's looking really gorgeous. How does it feel?
It feels good.
It's comfortable? Yeah. It's
Just this area.
yeah. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have added quite so much curvature out to the side. I probably should have
given them a bit of a less of an outward angle, so bring them more V shape as opposed to flowing out. But that does kind of remind me of some of those rockabilly or 1950s dresses with the big up and then boom, which it might be kind of what we're looking like once. It'll be interesting to see how it goes with the scale skirt once that's done and that's all pretty. But yeah, it's really beautiful.
Bye.